So, guys, let's take a minute to talk about Sean P. Diddy Combs, aka the Diddler. On Friday, he was officially sentenced for his two felony counts after his loss during his trial in the summer. Now, to give a quick refresher, he was on trial for some very, very serious charges, a RICO, in fact, with racketeering, sex trafficking, and conspiracy on the docket against him. But of the charges he also had some charges which were a violation of the Mann Act, which is effectively transporting prostitutes across state lines to engage in sexual acts. Now, he was able to beat the RICO charges, which are the very, very serious ones, because they would not only have had him doing possibly life in prison, they would have had him losing all of his wealth and fortune as well. But again, he could not beat the violations of the Mann Act. Now, going into the sentencing, some of the guidelines for the violation of the Mann Act are about up to 10 years for each count. Now, he had two counts, so he could potentially have done 20 years for those alone. But the thing is that most people who get prosecuted for violations of the Mann Act do not actually serve that kind of time. So he was in this very, very weird situation where the prosecution wanted him to serve about 11 years or 10 years in time, and his defense wanted him to get away with time served, being that he already did about 14 months behind bars while awaiting his trial in the first place. What he wound up getting was 50 months, which is about 4 years. And remember, since he had time served, that means that he's about 3 years left. And at worst, he's getting out in 2028. Now, he was not happy of this. And there's actually like pictures out there of him breaking down at this point and crying in court, with it kind of being a sad situation for him, considering before the sentencing, he had his family go up there and testify on his behalf to say like how much of a good dad he was, how much of a changed man he is, and all these different things. And he spoke to him being a changed man, and then he would pretty much never take his family for granted again. But at the same time, I mean, considering some of the things that he's done in the past, I feel like there was really no way for him to get out of this without seeing some type of time besides the time he's already done behind bars. Also, he has a $500,000 fine to go on top of all that. Now, listen, this guy at one point was either a billionaire or close to it, so I'm sure whatever that fee is, it is pretty much a joke to him. Now, I think one last final thing as part of the story here is that technically this is federal, so there is no parole, but he can get some time shaved off of the sentence with good behavior and have him serve about 85% of the time altogether. So you put that in mind. He's already done 1 year. He'll probably get off early 2028 or something like that. So, again, not what he wanted with the time away from his family, but a lot better than what he could have gotten. And personally, I think this is a win for him. Like, I know, again, he does not see it that way and probably doesn't feel that way. And I don't think anyone would, considering having to do any time in jail at all. But yeah, realistically, for what he was up against, this man could have lost his entire life for the charges being put against him. Another 2.5 to 3 years, in the grand scheme of things, I don't know what that is for a guy who's a millionaire like him. I mean, time is time, and he has young children, so that is significant. But again, it could have always been worse. Now, I just want to switch gears for a second and speak to some of the reactions I've seen in reference to this whole thing, with some people feeling like what has occurred is a complete injustice, as he should be serving a lot more time for the things he's done. And guys, I'm here to say I actually feel a bit conflicted on this view because, in my mind, though I agree, if you look at the Cassie video alone, you think, well, this man should have done some time for the assault and battery on Cassie, for the abuse over the years, and all of his crazy, erratic behavior that he's pretty much gotten away with up to this point. But at the same time, that is not what he was convicted for. And as I was mentioning earlier, most people who get convicted of the Mann Act actually don't serve time in jail. So I am saying that if he were to walk away at the time with time served, I don't know if it would have bothered me that much. Not because I didn't think he deserved it, but because I feel a little weird with how the system is basically bringing in other things you did that you aren't convicted for and using it to determine what kind of time you should spend for something else, right? So I understand that the judge has discretion and he's able to consider all of these things when making his sentences. And I also understand that the other things, the Cassie video, the battery, and the Jane Doe, the abuse, the cycle of like craziness that he pretty much sowed, is the thing that got him to spend time at this point, right? I think there was a phrase, I'm not too sure, about the judge saying, like, for the victims, we see you, effectively. So he is effectively doing time for those acts. I just wasn't too sure if it made sense, considering that's not what he was charged for. But again, what do I know? I'm not a lawyer. This is not my area of expertise. And to be fair, this is kind of one of those things where I would guess that for the victims, justice was served in some way, shape, or form. For all the other things, the statute of limitations ran out on, and so he can't actually be brought up on that stuff. So if he's spending any time with those actions and those misdeeds in mind, then I guess in a way, it is still justice for the victims. That's my perspective. What's yours? Let me know in the comments down below. Like the video if you haven't already, and subscribe, as I got much more content like this on the way. So until next time, YouTube, peace.